Me and my orange bike, cruising down the road, lightens any load. Just one thing could make it better if we took a ride together. We and our orange bikes.
New homes and miles of biking trails in Irvine, California. Learn more at greatparkneighborhoods.com.
When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And at Wiener Schnitzel, when life gives you sweet watermelons, delicious wild berries, and refreshing coconuts, you make 3 thirst-quenching, ice-cold southern lemonades in flavors that you can't resist. And when life gives you crispy bacon, grilled onions, and savory sauces from Texas, Kansas City, and Carolina, you make tasty barbecue dogs. So this summer, when life gives you cravings for deliciousness, head on over to Wiener Schnitzel and try our Tastes of Summer with barbecue dogs and southern lemonades today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 432. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the program. Sorry about not being around this morning, but I had that plumbing issue that popped up right before yesterday's live stream, and I had Mario and Luigi over here all day trying to fix it. So finally, they fixed it, they got it all taken care of, but it was like an all-day affair. Not having them fix it, that isn't what took them long. They fixed it quickly. It was waiting around for them to show up, right? You know, at least when you have like the cable company or someone coming over, they'll give you a window. We'll be there before, in between 8 and 12. These guys were like, oh, we'll give you a call when one of our technicians are ready. So Carrie was at work all day today, and I couldn't get away this morning for a studio sesh. So I was pretty much sitting around all day watching Bar Rescue and shit, hanging out. And what happens while I'm doing that? Well, wouldn't you know? Ghislaine Maxwell gets slapped with some more charges. Shocking. Who would have ever seen that coming? Considering we've been talking about the original charges, I always contended that they were just hold'em charges and that more were on the way. And, well, now here we are. So, while I was waiting for good old Mario and Luigi to bust out the pipes and get things cracking and moving in the right direction, no pun intended, all of this stuff was coming out full force. So I sat around this morning and I was like, all right, well, I guess as soon as these guys are done, at least I know what we're going to talk about tonight. And it really comes as no surprise, folks. Not to me, and it certainly shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody out there who has been following this case closely, that there is a superseded indictment and that Ghislaine Maxwell is now facing more charges in regards to her alleged behavior as part of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal enterprise, and not only as part of it, but somebody who had a leadership role. And these new charges that Ghislaine Maxwell is facing, well, there's serious charges right along with the other ones that are serious charges. And folks, I don't know if the government's done yet. Who knows? Maybe they have some more that they're going to drop on Ghislaine Maxwell at some point. We know that the case is still being built. As far as I know, the grand jury is still meeting, not right this second meeting, but they're still meeting in regards to this case. And they're probably, I'd even say, there's likely to be even more charges in this case. And I would not be shocked to see charges slapped on other people, especially now that the prosecution has unveiled a conspiracy charge. So let's jump into this article by Reuters, and let's see what the author, Jonathan Stemple, has to say about these new charges that slapped Maxwell directly in her lap. Ghislaine Maxwell faces new charges as U.S. expands sex crime case. This article was authored by Jonathan Stemple. U.S. prosecutors on Monday expanded their criminal case against Ghislaine Maxwell, saying the British socialite... What? Reuters still with the British socialite, huh? I mean, come on, guys. We're talking about somebody who is being accused of some heinous crimes. At the very least, you could say Jeffrey Epstein's alleged co-conspirator, no? We're still going with the socialite tag, huh? We're still going to run with that. All right, makes sense. An amended indictment against Maxwell now covers alleged crimes stretching from 1994 to 2004 in New York and Florida, including accusations that she paid the girl, known as minor victim number 4, hundreds of dollars for each sexual act with Epstein. Now, according to this indictment, and according to prosecution, this is a 14-year-old girl we're talking about here, folks. A 14-year-old girl who alleges that Ghislaine Maxwell paid her to have various sexual acts with Jeffrey Epstein, and she got paid hundreds of dollars for each one. 14 years old. That's the kind of stuff that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were up to, according to the prosecution and according to witness after witness and survivor after survivor, who has said that, in fact, Maxwell was involved in the abuse in some cases and was the chief person involved when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and the grooming and facilitating of all of this. So it's definitely not a shock that these charges have been expanded and that this indictment has been superseded. Maybe a shock to the 4 people who are still supporting Ghislaine Maxwell out there, the couple of dunderhead reporters out there that think it's edgy or something, but for the rest of us who are living in reality, who are paying attention to the evidence in this case, well, it's rather apparent that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and the whole Epstein criminal enterprise is alleged to have abused or have taken part in the abuse of literally hundreds of girls. And now we see in the indictment itself, in the print itself, court papers, prosecution is alleging that a 14-year-old girl, all right, was paid by Epstein and groomed by Maxwell. Those are the new charges that Maxwell's looking at. So I'm very interested to see how her family and the people who are acting in a defensive role for her are going to try and spin this. I'm sure the spin is going to come hot and heavy. And I seen something already where they were talking about how it just shows how weak the government's original case was. I mean, I guess if that's the strategy you want to employ, I guess if that's what you want to think, if that makes you feel better, that's fine. But I don't think that's going to help your defense. It goes to the heart of the matter here. And the fact is, there are a lot of people who allege Ghislaine Maxwell was engaged up to her forehead in everything Jeffrey Epstein was doing. Maxwell, who was Epstein's longtime associate and former girlfriend, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scuzzbag, and, well, bipedal serpent, faces new charges of sex trafficking conspiracy and sex trafficking of a minor in the 8-count indictment, as well as earlier charges that include perjury. So we knew about the original 6 indictments. Now there's 2 more added on top of it to bring the grand total to 8 for Ghislaine Maxwell. That is what she's facing now, 8 separate charges in regards to her relationship with Epstein and the allegations that she was acting as a part of that criminal enterprise. This is what she's looking at. And I'll tell you what, it can't be a good scene in Ghislaine Maxwell's jail cell tonight, folks. She can't be too excited about this, too thrilled about this. She's looking at serious time in a federal correction center. And these extra charges that just got slapped on top of her are just going to increase the amount of time that she ends up doing when all is said and done, if she ends up being found guilty. She had previously pleaded not guilty to helping Epstein recruit and groom 3 teenage girls for sex between 1994 and 1997 in New York. Maxwell, 59, has been held in a jail in Brooklyn since her arrest last July. So again, we've talked about for a long time that those original charges were just the tip of the iceberg, right? Just hold'em charges. And it wasn't that I had any inside information. I really don't. I don't, these people that make pretend that they do, that's fine. Go on with your bad selves. But for me, there was no inside information here. It was just putting 2 and 2 together and putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So I always knew that there were more indictments coming. I mean, it doesn't take a brilliant legal mind to put that together, right? But now that we see those new indictments and that one of them is a conspiracy charge, well, we know that you can't be involved in a conspiracy of one. Now, I guess they could contend that it was just her and Jeffrey Epstein involved in this conspiracy, and Epstein's dead, so she's left holding the bag. Remember, I said that that's definitely a likely scenario as well. That's what they do in this world. If you're an asset and you're no longer useful, well, you get burned. And there are no ties that bind you to the people who were, quote unquote, working with you previously. So that's exactly what we can be seeing here, folks, is Ghislaine Maxwell being set up to take the full fall for all of this. And it's very possible. But I think the likeliest scenario is that there's going to be more indictments of other people, namely the Core Four, Indike and Khan as well. And we know about Jean-Luc Brunel already. So I guess that could be another link in a conspiracy chain here, right? So we'll have to see what the government comes up with and what they end up tossing on the table as their hand. Lawyers for Maxwell did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Shocking. They never do, right? They put out their statements, they try and control the narrative, and then they keep it moving. And I really can't say that I blame them for that strategy. Probably the best bet is not to say anything. Just keep it on the, on the back burner and focus on the case as opposed to trying to fight a war of words in the media. It won't end well for them. So probably not the worst strategy. It is unclear whether the new charges could lead to a postponement of Maxwell's scheduled July 12th trial before U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan in Manhattan, though prosecutors said Maxwell should have ample time to prepare. So what prosecution is saying here is that with them giving the defense roughly 4 months to prepare for all of this, they should have ample amount of time to be ready for the trial date on July 12th. Now, I'm sure that Ghislaine Maxwell team is going to contend that they're going to need more time. So I would not be shocked to see this trial get pushed back. I would not be shocked to see that, considering these new charges. And again, if there's more charges that are coming that eventually she gets slapped with, it might get pushed back again. Who knows? There's definitely levers for the defense to use here and to pull on to try and get more time in the eyes of the court to properly be prepared for this trial. And of course, you want to make sure that everything is fair, right? You don't want to push this trial through, to have the judge render a decision, and then for an appeals court to throw that decision out on some sort of technicality or some sort of loophole. So the prosecution has to be very careful with how they go about things, and so does the court. In a letter to the judge, prosecutors said they have given Maxwell's lawyers the month and year when the fourth victim was born and key evidence about her. So I would hope that Maxwell's attorneys and legal team does the right thing with whatever that information might be, and that information doesn't find its way out into the public if it's been sealed. Because we're talking about somebody who was a minor at the time, right? They should be able to avoid that public scrutiny at least up until the trial. Now, I think it's if they're, with this new indictment, the proper thing to do is obviously turn over whatever evidence you have to the court and to the defense and let them know, hey, here, this is what your client's facing, and you folks better buckle up. They also said they plan to turn over large amounts of other evidence, including statements from more than 250 witnesses related to their investigation of Epstein and his associates. Associates, plural, okay? Associates. Not just associate, as it would be if it was just Ghislaine Maxwell. Associates is what they say here in this article. And remember, we're always looking for that little golden nugget, right? Always looking for that little golden nugget in these articles. And there's one of those instances. We know that there is still an investigation ongoing here. I would be very, very shocked, folks, if Ghislaine Maxwell ends up being the only person indicted over this. And also, 250 witnesses. There isn't a loophole or a technicality on the planet that is going to help you if there's 250 witnesses standing up against you, willing to submit written testimony or come before the court. And remember when we were talking about this, I said there's going to be a line of witnesses, right? I had no idea, no inside information. It's just obvious that there's going to be a ton of witnesses. I mean, we're talking about a case that's been being built over decades. We're not talking about something that just popped up in the news, where there's no evidence, clear evidence one way or the other, and it's he said, she said. This is way, 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 way different than that because of all of the evidence that's already been put into the public sphere and everything that we know already. Epstein killed himself at age 66 in a Manhattan jail cell in August 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, allegedly. His estate was used to create a fund expected to provide hundreds of millions of dollars in restitution to the survivors of his sexual abuses. The fund has received more than 175 claims. And we know that the fund was paused, right? And once the houses were sold, supposedly the money was punched back into the kitty so that the fund could return to activity. Now, there is a lot around that fund that we're going to have to talk about, right? There's still a lot we don't know. So when we get some more information about that, solid information one way or the other, we'll definitely talk about that as well. Lingerie. According to the amended indictment, Maxwell and Epstein recruited the fourth victim to engage in sex acts with Epstein at his home in Palm Beach, Florida, and successfully encouraged her to recruit other girls to do the same. So basically, he had this little girl go out in this sex Ponzi scheme, and for the couple of $100 that she was getting, she'd go out and recruit other girls to come in and be part of the scheme as well. And then if Jeffrey Epstein was ever caught, like he was, he could say, hey, look, I was paying her. She was a prostitute. Never mind the fact that she was 14. Never mind the fact that her friend was 15. I mean, it's so disgusting that they were able to use this whole, air quotes, massage as their code for what they were really up to. The indictment said Epstein's employees, including Maxwell, employees, folks, plural once again, including Maxwell, also sent gifts such as lingerie to the girl's Florida home from New York, where Epstein had a townhouse on Manhattan's Upper East Side. That townhouse was sold this month for $51 million. So the indictment said that Epstein's employees, multiple employees, including Maxwell, sent gifts such as lingerie to the girl's Florida home from New York. So who were these other associates? And when are they going to be charged? Oh, I have a good guess who they are. But I would like to see and hear the SDNY say their names as well. In late January and early February, Maxwell filed 12 motions seeking to dismiss all or parts of the government case, or at least make it more difficult to win a conviction. And we know how that's all worked out for her. The government has given her bupkis so far. She hasn't really been able to gain any traction with any of her arguments. And you know why? Well, because they're ludicrous. Maxwell has said the government targeted her only because Epstein killed himself, allegedly, and prosecutors wanted someone else to blame, and that she was covered by Epstein's own non-prosecution agreement with federal prosecutors in Florida. Oh boy, they love using that, don't they? I really wonder what the 11th Circuit Court is up to. I mean, are they busy having a huge barbecue lunch break? Are they having a sleepover and way too busy playing video games to finish hearing this case and render a decision? I mean, what in the hell are they doing right now? Well, here's a fantastic idea. Let's do away with this non-prosecution agreement and get rid of this monstrosity that should have never been there in the first place. She also has said the perjury charges, based on depositions from 2016 in a civil lawsuit, should be tossed because her answers were true, and the grand jury in suburban White Plains, New York, that indicted her had too few non-white jurors. Oh, well, there you go, the White Plains thing again, huh? Remember, I was telling you about Westchester, and there's no way that a judge was going to say that it's not diverse enough, right? Remember, that's what I said? Well, here you go. Last week, another federal judge in Manhattan refused to dismiss espionage charges against a former CEI employee indicted in White Plains early in the COVID-19 pandemic, rejecting the defendant's argument that the jury was not diverse enough. That ruling may foreshadow the outcome of Maxwell's dismissal request. It most certainly is. It's precedent, and judges love precedent. How many times have we talked about that throughout this whole entire shit show of an Epstein case? These judges love precedent, and if they have it, well, that's more times than not, they're going to rule in favor of wherever that precedent is. On March 22nd, Judge Nathan rejected Maxwell's third request for bail, saying Maxwell remained a significant flight risk. Yeah, Judge Nathan is not wrong about that, is she? Maxwell is somebody who cannot be trusted, folks, and we see that again with the new allegations from prosecution. It's quite obvious that there is still more to be uncovered. There is still more to be revealed. One thing that is certain, though, is that Ghislaine Maxwell, at this moment, is looking at a superseded indictment and a human trafficking conspiracy to commit human trafficking charge. And that, my friends, is serious, serious business. So we'll see, moving forward, what else comes of this. Will there be more charges? Or are these 8 all of the charges that Ghislaine Maxwell will end up seeing? If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. To everybody who has donated to the podcast recently and in the past, thank you folks so much. All right, everybody, I will be back tomorrow morning, and we will pick up where we left off. Have a great Monday night, everyone.
Life gives you lemons. You make lemonade. And at Wiener Schnitzel, when life gives you sweet watermelons, delicious wild berries, and refreshing coconuts, you make 3 thirst-quenching, ice-cold southern lemonades in flavors that you can't resist. And when life gives you crispy bacon, grilled onions, and savory sauces from Texas, Kansas City, and Carolina, you make tasty barbecue dogs. So this summer, when life gives you cravings for deliciousness, head on over to Wiener Schnitzel and try our Tastes of Summer with barbecue dogs and southern lemonades today. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And at Wiener Schnitzel, when life gives you sweet watermelons, delicious wild berries, and refreshing coconuts, you make 3 thirst-quenching, ice-cold southern lemonades in flavors that you can't resist. And when life gives you crispy bacon, grilled onions, and savory sauces from Texas, Kansas City, and Carolina, you make tasty barbecue dogs. So this summer, when life gives you cravings for deliciousness, head on over to Wiener Schnitzel and try our Tastes of Summer with barbecue dogs and southern lemonades today.